life often unfolds in unexpected ways. There may come a time when a woman finds herself walking a path of solitude. Friends may drift away, family may seem distant, and the comforting routines of a bustling social life may fade into quietness. In this stillness, it can feel as though the world has turned its back. Even when the world feels distant, God's presence remains constant. His promises remind us, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." In Him, we find a steadfast anchor amidst life's storms. But this moment, often seen as loneliness, holds a deeper truth, a divine opportunity to discover strength, resilience, and the ever-present companionship of God. So subscribe to the channel and type 999 in the comment to thank God. Recognizing God's unwavering presence, life can be unpredictable, and there are moments when we feel distant from everything familiar. Friends might drift away, family could be unavailable, and the world around us may seem to grow quieter. In such times, loneliness can feel overwhelming. But even in these quiet, difficult moments, there is a comforting truth that can change how we see our situation. God's presence is unwavering. When life feels heavy and burdensome, it's easy to believe we've been left to face it all on our own. But God's promise, found in Scripture, offers assurance that we are never truly alone. "I will never leave you nor forsake you," He says. These words aren't just comforting phrases, they're a deep, unchanging promise. God's presence is not conditional or fleeting. It doesn't depend on how well we're doing in life or how we feel at a given moment. It is steadfast, enduring, and ever-present. Think about a time when you felt truly abandoned or uncertain. Maybe it was during a loss, a failure, or a moment when you didn't know where to turn. In those times, even if you couldn't see it immediately, God was right there. His presence isn't always loud or dramatic. Often it's subtle, like a gentle peace in your heart, a timely word from a stranger, or a feeling of hope that refuses to fade. God's presence is like an anchor in a stormy sea. When waves of fear, doubt, or sadness crash around you, that anchor holds firm. It doesn't stop the storm, but it ensures you won't be swept away. Similarly, God doesn't always remove life's challenges. Instead, He stays with us, giving us the strength to endure and the courage to keep moving forward. When we recognize God's unwavering presence, it changes how we see our solitude. Instead of feeling abandoned, we begin to sense that we are accompanied by the Creator of the universe, a presence so constant and caring that it transforms our loneliness into a profound connection. It's like walking through a dense forest and suddenly realizing that you're not lost because someone who knows the way is right beside you. God's presence also brings peace in ways we might not immediately understand. Imagine being in a chaotic, noisy room and then stepping outside into the stillness of a quiet garden. That sudden calm can feel like a balm to your soul. God's presence is similar. Even when the noise of life doesn't completely go away, His peace allows you to breathe easier, trust more, and find a sense of balance amidst the chaos. Moreover, recognizing His presence helps us to see blessings we might have overlooked. A comforting sunrise, the kindness of a stranger, or the strength to face another day. All these are evidence of God walking with us. So, when the world feels distant, remember this: God has not abandoned you. His presence is constant, His love unchanging, and His promises unbreakable. You are never truly alone. He is with you, always. Rediscovering inner strength. When external support systems fall away, we realize that true strength lies within. Through God's guidance, we uncover a wellspring of courage and perseverance that was always there, waiting to be awakened. Life often has a way of shaking up the foundations we rely on. There are times when the people or systems we lean on Friends, family, or a familiar routine seem to fade away. In those moments, it can feel as though the world has left us to fend for ourselves. But what if these times of isolation are not just about loss, but about uncovering something deeper within us? When the external support we've grown accustomed to is no longer there, we're forced to confront the truth. There is a strength inside us that often goes unnoticed. This strength isn't about pretending everything is fine or pushing through difficulties without help. It's about discovering that with God's guidance, we're more resilient, capable, and courageous than we ever imagined. Imagine a tree standing alone in an open field. Without the shelter of other trees around it, it faces the full force of the wind, rain, and sun. At first glance, it might seem more vulnerable, but beneath the surface, its roots are growing deeper, spreading wider, and anchoring it firmly to the ground. The challenges it faces force it to become stronger, more self-reliant. In the same way, when life's support systems fall away, we are given the opportunity to develop our own deep roots of faith, perseverance, and inner strength. It's often in the absence of external support that we hear God's voice most clearly. When we are stripped of distractions, we begin to notice His guidance. He gently reminds us that our strength doesn't come from the world around us, but from Him. Through prayer, reflection, and trust in His plan, we uncover courage we didn't know we had. Rediscovering inner strength doesn't happen all at once. It's a process, often beginning with small steps. Maybe it's finding the courage to face a difficult day, or having the perseverance to keep moving forward when it feels easier to give up. Each step builds on the last, and with time we start to see how capable we truly are. This journey isn't just about enduring tough times, it's about transformation. It's about realizing that the strength we discover isn't something we create on our own. It's a gift from God. He places that strength within us, waiting for us to trust Him enough to uncover it. What's beautiful about this process is that it changes how we view ourselves. Instead of seeing weakness or limitation, we start to recognize resilience and potential. Instead of feeling like victims of our circumstances, we become overcomers, empowered by faith and a deep sense of purpose. So when life strips away the familiar, don't be afraid. This is the time to look inward and upward. With God by your side, you will uncover the wellspring of strength that has been waiting within you all along. That strength will carry you through the challenges of today and prepare you for the triumphs of tomorrow. Deepening the relationship with God. In solitude, the connection with God becomes more intimate. Daily prayers, moments of gratitude, and meditative silence turn into heartfelt conversations with the one who knows us best. Life has a way of pulling us in many directions, with endless tasks, responsibilities, and social interactions filling our days. In this busyness, it can be easy to lose touch with the quiet, sacred space where our relationship with God resides. But when life shifts, perhaps through solitude or stillness, there's an opportunity to reconnect with Him in a more profound and meaningful way. Solitude is often misunderstood as loneliness, but it can be a gift when embraced. It's in these quiet moments when the noise of the world fades that we can truly focus on our connection with God. Without distractions, we are able to listen more deeply, feel more honestly, and experience His presence more fully. In solitude, the relationship with God transforms from something distant or routine into something deeply personal and intimate. Daily prayer becomes more than a habit. It becomes a lifeline. It's like talking to a trusted friend who understands every word, every sigh, every joy, and every pain. Prayer is no longer about finding the right words or following a structure. It's about being real with God. In these conversations, we can pour out our hearts without fear of judgment. Whether we're expressing gratitude, asking for guidance, or simply sharing our struggles, we find comfort in knowing that He listens with love and compassion. Moments of gratitude also take on new meaning during this time. When life slows down, we start noticing the small blessings that often go overlooked. a warm cup of tea, the beauty of a sunrise, or the feeling of peace after a long day. These moments remind us of God's hand in every aspect of our lives. Gratitude becomes a way of recognizing His presence and acknowledging that even in solitude, we are surrounded by His grace.
Meditative silence is another powerful way to deepen our connection with God. In a world that constantly demands our attention, sitting quietly can feel uncomfortable at first, but in that stillness, something extraordinary happens. Our minds quiet, our hearts open, and we begin to sense God's presence in a way that words cannot describe. It's in this silence that we often hear His voice most clearly, not in thunderous declarations, but in gentle whispers that guide and reassure us. Through these practices, prayer, gratitude, and silence, our relationship with God becomes less about ritual and more about intimacy. We start to see Him not just as a distant creator, but as a loving Father, a faithful friend, and a constant companion. This intimacy doesn't come from trying harder or doing more. It comes from simply being with Him, allowing ourselves to rest in His presence and trust in His love. As this relationship deepens, we realize that we are never truly alone. In every moment of solitude, God is there, waiting to meet us. And in that meeting, we find peace, strength, and the assurance that we are deeply loved. Solitude as an invitation, not isolation. Solitude isn't about being abandoned. It's an invitation to pause and reflect. It's a sacred space where distractions dissolve, allowing us to hear the gentle whispers of God's voice. In our fast-paced, ever-connected world, solitude is often seen as something to avoid. Many people equate being alone with being lonely, but solitude is not the same as isolation. It's not about being abandoned or forgotten. It's a sacred invitation. When we embrace it, solitude becomes a space where we can pause, reflect, and reconnect with the deepest parts of ourselves and with God. Think of solitude as stepping into a quiet room after a long day of noise and chaos. At first, the silence might feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, but soon you begin to notice the peace it offers. Solitude creates a similar stillness in our hearts and minds, allowing us to step away from the constant demands of life. It's a chance to put down our burdens, take a deep breath, and simply be. In this space, distractions dissolve. The endless to-do lists, the noise of social media, and the opinions of others fade into the background. Without these interruptions, we're able to focus on what truly matters. We start to hear the whispers of our own thoughts and feelings, things we may have been too busy to notice. And more importantly, we begin to hear the gentle voice of God. God often speaks in whispers, not in loud proclamations. His guidance, comfort, and love are subtle yet profound. In the busyness of life, it can be hard to hear Him. But in solitude, when everything else is quiet, His voice becomes clearer. It might come as a sense of peace about a decision, a realization about something in your life, or a feeling of reassurance that you are loved and not alone. Solitude is also a time for reflection. It's a chance to look inward, to ask ourselves important questions, and to seek God's perspective on our lives. Are we living in alignment with His will? Are there areas where we need to grow or change? Reflection isn't about dwelling on mistakes or regrets. It's about learning, growing, and drawing closer to God. This sacred space of solitude doesn't have to be long or dramatic. It can be as simple as a few quiet minutes in the morning before the day begins, a walk in nature, or an evening spent journaling and praying. What matters is the intention behind it, to step away from the noise and reconnect with what is true and eternal. Far from being a time of loneliness, solitude can be a time of renewal. It allows us to recharge, to refocus, and to remember that we are never truly alone. In solitude, we find God waiting for us, ready to listen, guide, and fill us with His love. So when life offers you moments of solitude,
Don't shy away from them. Embrace them as an invitation, a sacred opportunity to pause, reflect, and draw closer to the one who knows you best. In these moments, you'll discover that solitude is not about being apart from the world. It's about stepping closer to God, embracing personal growth. Walking alone allows us to shed the expectations and noise of others. It's a time to rediscover our passions, talents, and unique purpose, as God molds us into the person we are meant to be. Life often surrounds us with expectations. What others think we should do, who they believe we should be, and how they expect us to live. These voices can become so loud that they drown out our own desires, dreams, and even our sense of self. But when we find ourselves walking alone, away from the noise of the world, something transformative can happen. It's in this space of solitude that we can begin to embrace personal growth, rediscover who we are, and uncover the unique purpose God has for us. Walking alone doesn't mean being isolated or disconnected. It's an opportunity to step away from the external pressures that often shape our lives. Without the constant influence of others' opinions, we're free to look inward. What truly matters to us? What are our passions and talents? What dreams have been tucked away, waiting for a moment like this to come alive? In this quiet season, God becomes our guide. He gently removes the layers of doubt, fear, and comparison that we've carried, revealing the person He created us to be. Imagine a sculptor working on a block of marble. With each careful stroke, the sculptor chips away the excess to reveal a masterpiece hidden within. In the same way, God uses moments of solitude to refine us, shaping us into something beautiful and purposeful. Rediscovering our passions and talents is one of the gifts of this process. When we're not consumed by meeting others' expectations, we start to remember the things that make our hearts come alive. Maybe it's a love for writing, art, helping others, or building something meaningful. These passions aren't random. They're placed in us by God as part of our unique design. Exploring them allows us to align with His plan and find joy in using our gifts. This journey of personal growth also helps us build resilience and confidence. When we step away from relying on others for validation, we learn to trust ourselves and, more importantly, trust God. We realize that our worth isn't defined by what others think, but by who we are in Him. This inner strength becomes a foundation we can rely on no matter what challenges come our way. As we grow, we also begin to see our purpose more clearly. God has a plan for each of us, a unique role that only we can fulfill. Walking alone gives us the clarity to seek His direction and the courage to follow it. It's a time to ask, what is God calling me to do? How can I use my gifts to make a difference? And as we walk this path, we find fulfillment in knowing we're becoming the person God intended us to be. Embracing personal growth is a journey, not a destination. It requires patience, faith, and a willingness to let go of what no longer serves us. But the reward is a life filled with purpose, passion, and a deep sense of connection to God. So, if you find yourself walking alone, remember that this is not an ending. It's a beginning. It's your chance to grow into the person you were always meant to be. The beauty of trusting God's plan. Life's lonely paths often lead to unexpected blessings. Trusting God means believing that every step, even in solitude, has a purpose designed for our ultimate good. Life is full of twists and turns, and sometimes we find ourselves on paths we never expected to walk. These lonely stretches of the journey can feel confusing or even painful, leaving us wondering why we are there and where it's all leading. Yet these moments are often the times when God's plan unfolds in ways we can't immediately understand. Trusting Him during these seasons means believing that even the most uncertain steps are part of a greater purpose, one designed for our ultimate good. Trust doesn't always come easily. especially when the path ahead is unclear. When we face solitude or challenges, our natural instinct may be to question, why is this happening, or what did I do to end up here? But God's perspective is far greater than ours. He sees the entire picture, the destination we're moving toward, the lessons we need to learn along the way, and the blessings waiting for us. Trusting His plan means acknowledging that even though we might not understand right now, He is guiding us towards something better. Think of life like a tapestry. From the underside, it often looks messy, threads going in every direction with no apparent pattern. But when you flip it over, a beautiful design is revealed. In the same way, God is weaving the events of our lives into a masterpiece. The lonely paths, the unexpected detours, and even the struggles are all threads in His hands, carefully placed to create something extraordinary.
One of the hardest parts of trusting God's plan is learning to wait. In our culture of instant gratification, waiting can feel like a setback. But with God, waiting is never wasted. It's a time of preparation, growth, and strengthening. During these seasons, He may be working in ways we cannot see, aligning circumstances, opening doors, or refining us for what's to come. Trusting Him means embracing this waiting period as part of His perfect timing. The beauty of trusting God's plan becomes clear when we look back on our lives and see how He's been faithful. Think about times when you faced difficulties or uncertainty, only to later realize how those moments led to unexpected blessings. Maybe a job loss opened the door to a career you love, or a period of loneliness helped you discover your inner strength and deepen your relationship with God. These experiences remind us that His plans are always good, even when they don't make sense in the moment. Trusting God also brings peace. When we stop trying to control everything and place our faith in Him, we let go of anxiety and fear. Instead of worrying about the unknown, we can rest in the assurance that God is in control. His plans are not only for our good, but also for His glory, and He will never lead us astray. So when you find yourself on a lonely path, remember that it is not without purpose. Trust that God is leading you to unexpected blessings, shaping you into the person He created you to be, and fulfilling a plan that is far greater than anything you could imagine. In the end, His plan is always worth trusting. Finding joy in simplicity. Without the distractions of a busy world, we start noticing life's simple blessings, a sunrise, a kind word, or the peace of a quiet moment. These are reminders of God's love woven into everyday life. In the midst of life's hustle and bustle, it's easy to overlook the beauty that surrounds us. We get so caught up in our to-do lists, deadlines, and endless notifications that the simple blessings of life fade into the background. But when the distractions of the busy world quiet down, whether by choice or circumstance, we're given a rare and precious opportunity to notice the joy hidden in simplicity. Simplicity isn't about having less, it's about seeing more. It's about slowing down enough to recognize the little gifts that God has placed in our lives each day. A sunrise, for example, is more than just the beginning of a new day. It's a breathtaking reminder of God's creativity and faithfulness. No matter what happened yesterday, the sun rises again, casting its warm glow over everything it touches. It's as if God is saying, here is another chance, another moment to start fresh. Kind words, too, hold incredible power. In a world where negativity often dominates, a simple word of encouragement or a genuine smile can feel like a ray of light breaking through the clouds. These moments remind us that love and kindness are part of God's design for humanity. When we take time to give or receive these small gestures, we experience His love in action. Then there's the peace of a quiet moment, a rare treasure in our noisy world. Whether it's sitting with a cup of tea, feeling the cool breeze on your face, or enjoying the stillness of the evening, these moments remind us to breathe, to rest, and to be present.
They're opportunities to pause and feel God's presence, whispering His peace into our hearts. These simple blessings may seem small, but they are profound. They remind us that joy doesn't have to come from grand achievements or material possessions. It's found in the little things, the everyday miracles that often go unnoticed. A child's laughter, the smell of rain, the way the stars light up the night sky. All of these are God's way of showing us that His love is woven into every detail of our lives. When we embrace simplicity, we also find freedom. We stop chasing after the next big thing or measuring our worth by what we accomplish. Instead, we learn to appreciate what we already have and to trust that God's provision is enough. This shift in perspective brings a deep sense of contentment and gratitude, which are the foundation of lasting joy. Finding joy in simplicity doesn't require drastic changes. It's about opening our eyes and hearts to the beauty around us. It's about saying thank you for the little things and recognizing them as gifts from a loving Creator. And as we cultivate this mindset, we begin to see God's fingerprints everywhere, in the ordinary, in the unexpected, and in the simple moments that make life extraordinary.
So take a moment to pause today. Look for the sunrise, listen for a kind word, and cherish the quiet. In these simple blessings, you'll find joy, peace, and a reminder of God's love woven into every corner of your life. Becoming a light for others, solitude teaches empathy. Having walked this path, we become a source of encouragement for others facing similar struggles. Our story becomes a testimony of faith and resilience. When life leads us through moments of solitude, it can feel isolating and challenging. But those seasons of quiet and struggle are not without purpose. They shape us, teach us, and deepen our understanding of life and others. One of the most beautiful outcomes of walking a lonely path is the empathy it cultivates within us. Having faced challenges, we are uniquely equipped to become a source of light and encouragement for others who may find themselves on a similar journey. Empathy is born from experience. When we've endured loneliness, uncertainty, or pain, we gain a deeper understanding of what others might be feeling when they face their own struggles. This shared experience creates a bridge of connection, an unspoken understanding that says, "I see you. I've been there too." It's not about having all the answers, but about offering a listening ear, a kind word, or simply the reassurance that they are not alone. Solitude often gives us time to reflect on our own journey. In those reflective moments, we begin to see how God has been with us all along, guiding, strengthening, and comforting us. Our faith deepens as we recognize that even in our hardest times, His presence never wavered. This growing awareness becomes the foundation of our testimony, a story of resilience and faith that we can share with others. Sharing our story doesn't mean everything has to be perfect or resolved. In fact, the honesty of admitting that we're still growing, still trusting, and still learning can be incredibly powerful. It reminds others that faith isn't about having it all together. It's about leaning on God through the messiness of life. When we share our experiences authentically, we create a safe space for others to open up about their struggles, knowing they won't be judged or dismissed. In becoming a light for others, we fulfill one of God's greatest commands, to love one another. Love isn't always grand gestures. It's often found in the small, consistent ways we show up for people. It's the phone call to check in, the text that says, "I'm thinking of you," or the quiet prayer lifted on their behalf. These acts may seem simple, but they can be life-changing for someone feeling lost or alone. Moreover, being a source of encouragement isn't just about helping others. It also strengthens us. When we see how our experiences can bring hope to someone else, it gives our struggles meaning. We realize that nothing we've been through is wasted. God can use even our pain to create something beautiful. It's a reminder that our stories, with all their ups and downs,
are part of His greater plan. As we walk alongside others, we become living testimonies of God's love and faithfulness. Our empathy, shaped by our own journey, shines as a light in the darkness. And in sharing that light, we not only help others find their way, but also discover a deeper sense of purpose and connection in our own lives. So, if you've walked a lonely path, know this: your journey matters. It has prepared you to be a beacon of hope for others. Your story, marked by resilience and faith, can light the way for someone else who needs to hear, you're not alone, God is with you, and there is hope ahead. Celebrating independence without isolation. Walking alone can feel like a lonely and daunting experience at first, but it's also an opportunity to grow, reflect, and redefine how we approach relationships. Solitude offers a unique kind of independence, one that isn't about shutting others out, but about learning to stand strong on our own while fostering healthier, more meaningful connections with others. It's a journey towards celebrating independence without isolating ourselves, a balance that enriches both our personal lives and our relationships. Independence is often misunderstood as a rejection of community or a declaration of self-sufficiency, but true independence is far more nuanced. It's about knowing who you are and embracing your worth without needing constant validation from others. When we walk alone, we have the chance to rediscover ourselves, our passions, strengths, and boundaries. We learn that our value isn't tied to someone else's approval or presence, but to who we are as individuals, created and loved by God. This realization doesn't mean we no longer need relationships. Instead, it changes the way we approach them. Independence empowers us to enter relationships from a place of wholeness rather than dependency. We no longer look to others to complete us or fill a void. Instead, we seek connections built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. These relationships are healthier and more fulfilling because they are grounded in authenticity, not neediness. Solitude also teaches us the importance of boundaries. Walking alone gives us clarity about what we want and need in our interactions with others. We become better at recognizing relationships that uplift and nourish us, as well as those that drain or harm us. This clarity helps us make intentional choices about who we allow into our lives, ensuring that our relationships are sources of encouragement and growth rather than stress or conflict. At the same time, solitude helps us appreciate the beauty of community. When we've spent time alone, we come to value the presence of others in a deeper way. We recognize the joy of sharing life's moments with people who truly care about us. Independence doesn't mean avoiding these connections. It means cherishing them while maintaining our sense of self. It's about giving and receiving love freely, without fear of losing ourselves in the process. Building healthier relationships requires effort and intentionality. It means listening with empathy, communicating openly, and showing up for others in meaningful ways. It also means being willing to receive the same in return. Independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. It's about knowing when to lean on others and when to stand firm on our own. Ultimately, celebrating independence without isolation is about balance. It's about embracing the strength that comes from walking alone while remaining open to the richness that community brings. It's about knowing that we can thrive both as individuals and as part of a greater whole. So, as you walk this path, remember that independence is not the absence of relationships, but the foundation for better ones. It's a chance to grow, to connect, and to celebrate both who you are and the people who journey alongside you. In this balance, you'll find not only strength, but also joy, love, and a deeper sense of belonging. Realizing you were never truly alone. As the journey unfolds, it becomes clear we were never walking alone. God was always by our side, teaching us, strengthening us, and preparing us for greater things to come. When we walk through difficult or lonely times, it can often feel as though we're navigating life entirely on our own. We may look around and see no one standing beside us, no one offering help. and no one to share our burdens. In these moments, it's easy to believe the lie that we are truly alone, left to face our struggles by ourselves. But as the journey of life unfolds, something powerful and reassuring becomes clear. We were never walking alone. God was with us all along, even when we couldn't see Him, feel Him, or understand His presence. There are times when God's presence feels distant or hard to grasp. We might find ourselves praying, asking for guidance, or hoping for a sign, only to feel as though our prayers are unanswered. But even in those moments of silence, He is still there, walking beside us. God doesn't leave us in our solitude. Rather, He uses these moments to teach us, to build our character, and to prepare us for the future He has planned for us. In the quiet spaces of life, God works in the background, shaping us in ways we often don't notice. He teaches us patience when we want to rush, resilience when we face setbacks, and faith when doubt creeps in. His presence is there even in the moments when we don't feel it. Sometimes we only recognize it when we look back and see how we made it through challenges we thought we couldn't survive. It's in those moments of reflection that we realize God was with us, not as a distant figure, but as a constant companion guiding us every step of the way. God doesn't just stand beside us during the easy times or the moments of victory. He is with us in the struggles, in the tears, and in the fear. He's the quiet strength that helps us keep going when we feel like giving up. He's the still voice that whispers encouragement when the world around us is loud with negativity and doubt. Even when we think we are alone, He is preparing us for something greater, teaching us lessons that we'll use in the future. Looking back on our journey, we can see that every step, every moment of hardship, and every lonely path had a purpose. God was not only walking with us, but also shaping us, refining us, and molding us into the people we needed to become. The pain we endured wasn't meaningless. It was part of the process of preparation for the greater things He has in store for us. What may have felt like abandonment in the moment becomes a testimony of how God never left us, how He was always present, even in the darkest times. When we realize that we were never truly alone, it brings a profound sense of peace. We don't have to carry our burdens alone, and we don't have to walk the hard paths by ourselves. God's love surrounds us, and His presence is a constant comfort, even in our most solitary moments. This realization changes everything. It transforms loneliness into a deeper connection with God and a greater sense of trust in His plan. So as you look back on your journey, and as you continue to walk forward, remember this truth. You were never alone. God has always been there, teaching, strengthening, and preparing you for the future He's designed for you. And as you step into that future, you can walk with the assurance that His presence will always be by your side. Conclusion. To every woman who finds herself walking alone, remember this: you are never truly alone. In the quiet moments, God walks with you, holds your hand, and guides your steps. This path is not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity to discover the strength that only comes from trusting Him. When the world feels distant, lean into His presence, for He is the one companion who will never leave your side. Let solitude be a season of growth, faith, and divine connection. May you walk boldly, knowing that the Creator of the universe walks with you. Thank you